Let's take a look at the eye on the green Somso model. So from an anterior view here, we can see the eyelids. These are called palpebrae, if you're referring to both of them. If you are referring to just one, we have a palpebra. So this is the upper palpebra, and this is the lower palpebra. The point at which the palpebrae meet are called the canthuses. So this is the medial canthus, and this is the lateral canthus. Positioned superior-laterally here, we can see the lacrimal gland. So this is going to be the gland that is responsible for producing tears. Those tears will flow over the eye, and they can drain out of this portion of the eye through these peachish structures, which are called the lacrimal canaliculi, and they will eventually drain into the nasal cavity. Positioned medially here at the medial canthus is a reddish body that's going to be responsible for producing an oily secretion that will eventually produce sleepies or eye boogers when it dries out. And that's called the lacrimal caruncle. Here we can see part of the fibrous layer of the eye, the white of the eye, which is the sclera. And this clear structure is the cornea, forming a semicircle here. From a lateral view, we can see the extrinsic eye muscles. So positioned superiorly here is the superior rectus. Rectus means straight, so this is a straight muscle. Most laterally here, we can see the lateral rectus. That is also a straight muscle. This muscle that takes more of a turn here is the superior oblique. So that is going to have a tendon that will attach to the muscle, and it will pass through a structure called the trochlea here. Most medial is the medial rectus. Again, this is a straight muscle. Most inferior is the inferior rectus. And this is the inferior oblique. So there are going to be cranial nerves that are going to be responsible for innervating these muscles. And there's a mnemonic that you can use to help you remember which cranial nerve innervates which extrinsic eye muscle. And that is in the form of a chemical equation. And that is SO4, LR6, and then all the rest 3. So the superior oblique will be innervated by cranial nerve 4. The lateral rectus will be innervated by cranial nerve 6, or abducens. And all the rest are going to be innervated by cranial nerve 3, oculomotor. So SO4, LR6, all the rest 3. Okay, those are the extrinsic eye muscles. That was the cornea. Here we can see the inner vascular layer, inner relative to the outer fibrous layer. It's not the innermost layer, but it is the choroid. So it has a large amount of vascularization, and it's going to be dark in coloration. From the anterior view here, we can see the iris, or the colored portion of the eye, and this opening, which is going to dilate and contract depending on the environmental conditions or the presence of certain drugs in the body, is the pupil. Taking apart the eye further, we can see here the lens. So it was previously intact like this. I've taken off the anterior portion of the eye, and now we can see the lens, which is going to reside behind the pupil. Posterior to the lens will be where we're going to find the fluids of the eye. So there's going to be what's called aqueous humor more anteriorly and vitreous humor more posteriorly. They can't fill the model with fluid, so instead they make it out of plastic. So this is showing us the inner layer of the eye, the innermost layer, the neural layer, and that is the retina. In this whitish area is where we're going to have the optic disc, or the blind spot. So this is going to be where all of the axons from the photoreceptors will coalesce and leave the posterior portion of the eye to become the optic nerve. And here we can see in yellow paint the area of highest visual acuity in the eye, and that is the fovea centralis. Surrounding it will be an area of a high concentration of cones, but it's not exclusively cones, and that is the macula lutea. The fovea centralis is composed exclusively of cones. Back to the model, we can see where the optic nerve will leave the posterior aspect of the eye to travel to, eventually, the visual cortex of the brain, traversing through the other visual pathway structures along the way. Okay, that is the eye on the green Somso model.